Tonight at 10 o'clock, Des O'Connor meets Sanjeev Bhaskar. But now on ITV1, the news in London Tonight.
On London Tonight, horror in Hertfordshire. One man is murdered and another injured after gunmen open fire in a drive-by shooting.
Also coming up on the programme, concerns about safety on the tube after a London Tonight investigation uncovers appalling track maintenance at Waterloo.
Unlawfully killed in custody, a jury returns a damning verdict into the death of Sylvester.
Plus, why wearing blue denim for a day is helping sick children across the capital.
And Streetball touches down in the capital, but can it help lift the image of London basketball?
Hello, good evening. First tonight, two men are gunned down in a hail of bullets outside a Hertfordshire health club.
The victims were ambushed as they left the gym in Brewery Road in Hoddesdon this morning. They were shot with what detectives think could have been a machine gun. Ambulance crews were quickly on the scene, but one of the men died. The other is now recovering. Nick Scott-Plummer has the story.
Shootings have become commonplace in the capital, but this latest attack happened in the commuter town of Hoddesdon in Hertfordshire. A gunman opened fire in broad daylight with what's thought to be an automatic weapon, killing one man and narrowly missing another.
It sounded like a machine gun going off. So we just both jumped up, ran to the window, and all we see was a guy laying there on the floor.
I heard a real long amount of gunfire for about 4 or 5 seconds. We looked out the window. First of all, thought it was fireworks, kids letting off crackers. And looked out, and the Peugeot that was parked right against our fence was, all the windows were blown in. There was all bullet holes through the leather seating, and the guy was lying there by his passenger side front wheel.
The gangland-style hit happened at around 9:15 this morning. The victim and his friend had just left a gym on Brewery Road when a white transit van pulled alongside them and a gunman opened fire. Paramedics were on the scene within minutes, but the man was already dead. The other suffered superficial wounds and is now being interviewed by detectives. Police later discovered the van used in the shooting burnt out in a nearby street. It's now been taken away for forensic examination. Officers refused to say whether this was a targeted attack, but did admit the public weren't at risk.
Hoddesdon is a very, very peaceful, usually, East Hertfordshire town. This is a really unusual incident, and our initial inquiries would suggest that there really isn't a general threat to people that live here or indeed in the surrounding area.
In the last hour, police have towed away the victim's bullet-riddled car. Locals said he was a builder in his 40s from Winchmore Hill, who was a regular at the gym. Police are still hunting the gunman and his accomplice, and are asking anyone who thinks they saw the van in Hoddesdon this morning to contact them. This is Nick Scott-Plummer for London Tonight.
Serious safety fears have been raised after London Tonight uncovered evidence of appalling maintenance work at Waterloo tube station. Now, we found equipment left by the track and rails, partly supported with bits of wood and secured with nails. London Underground managers have demanded answers from Metronet, the firm responsible, and asked for assurances that it won't happen again. This special report from our transport correspondent, Keir Simmons.
It looks terrible. This is the way a section of Bakerloo track has been left in recent days as work is carried out overnight. We showed the pictures to passengers who have to use the line.
Doesn't look too solid, does it? My God. That is quite appalling.
Pretty shocking, actually.
So London Tonight sent the pictures filmed yesterday at Waterloo Station to London Underground. Now, our investigation has prompted an internal inquiry.
I've seen the photographs. I haven't personally been to the site. I've got to say, firstly, I want to assure our customers that the railway is safe. However, I'm appalled by the standard of workmanship and the quality of housekeeping in that particular site. And I'm demanding a full explanation from Metronet BCV, which is our contractor, of why they've allowed this to happen and what steps they're taking to ensure it doesn't happen again.
I showed these pictures to the Rail Inspectorate, who are charged with ensuring that the Underground is safe. They said there isn't a risk to passengers, but there is an outside chance that this work could cause a low-speed derailment. Tube bosses reject that, but the private firm responsible, Metronet, admits tools left lying around, for example, is far from good practice. Is this what Metronet calls good work?
No, this is not work which is to our accepted standards, it's not to our expected standards.
Can you give passengers a guarantee that there will not be a derailment in the years to come as a result of the track that you're looking after?
I'm confident that the standards that we maintain the track to will ensure that there is not a derailment.
But passengers have a right to ask, if it takes London Tonight to raise concerns about the quality of work at Waterloo, where else are mistakes being made?
I'm appalled, but I'm not surprised, I have to say, and I bet you there are plenty of other tracks in London which are in a worse condition than that.
Well, Keir Simmons is outside Waterloo Station, where those pictures were shot, of course. Keir, it's all a bit worrying, isn't it? How concerned should passengers be?
What I'd like to reassure you, and London Underground tonight are insisting that there aren't even worse examples, worse practices on other parts of the Underground. But the problem is, how can we be certain? Why did it take London Tonight to bring this to their attention, for them to actually do something? This, the Underground now, with these highly paid American bosses, you have to ask yourself the question, are they taking their eye off the ball? On the other hand, of course, this partial privatisation was brought in by the government. It means those bosses have to work through a private company, and they would argue that is making it more difficult for them. Let's hope our expose encourages both of these groups, the company and London Underground, to pull their socks up.
Thanks very much, Keir.
An inquest jury has found that a North London council worker was unlawfully killed after being detained by 6 police officers. Roger Sylvester died 7 days after being arrested outside his home in Tottenham nearly 4 years ago. The result was greeted with applause from friends and family who had long campaigned for justice. Phil Bales reports.
Unlawful killing.
Tears of relief, gratitude and triumph. Family and friends of Roger Sylvester cheered when a jury backed their claim that 6 police officers used unreasonable force when they restrained him.
That resulted in him dying. Now they are trained to restrain safely. Clearly they didn't do that night. And that to us, whatever their actions were unlawful, resulting in his death.
30-year-old Roger Sylvester had a history of mental illness. He was restrained, arrested and handcuffed by 8 officers outside his house in Tottenham when police say he was naked and suffering from cannabis-induced delirium. Protesters claimed that when he was taken to a psychiatric hospital in Haringey, excessive force was used to subdue him. The jury heard 6 police officers held him down on the floor for 20 minutes. They concluded this was too long and criticised a lack of medical attention.
Roger needed help. There was no need to restrain him and handcuff him. He would have only taken at least 2 officers, 1 on each arm, and walk into the vehicle.
I cry every day for the past nearly 5 years. I go to the cemetery very regular. It's very, I can't describe the pain I'm feeling.
Police, though, say Mr. Sylvester exhibited extraordinary strength, struggling beyond ordinary limits of human endurance. Lawyers acting for the police officers will almost certainly ask the High Court to overturn this verdict. They say investigations have already concluded there's no evidence of criminal or disciplinary offences. The Met conceded this verdict may lead to further inquiries and have pledged to assist. This is Phil Bales for London Tonight.
A woman appeared in court today charged with killing her 2 children and a family friend. Kate Knight is accused of 3 counts of manslaughter and arson after a pub fire in northeast London in June. Damon Green has this report.
Kate Knight arrived at court to face criminal charges, accusations that she had deliberately started a fire in her own pub, which caused the deaths of 2 of her own children, as well as the brother-in-law who lost his life trying to save them. She was facing a total of 4 charges. 5-year-old Charlie Knight was one of those who lost his life, along with 10-year-old Chris, as fire engulfed the Prince of Wales pub in Stoke Newington in East London in July this year. Drinkers were enjoying a late lock-in in the bar downstairs, and the young family were asleep upstairs when fire broke out. It ripped through the building, and despite the best efforts of bystanders, including 35-year-old Ronnie Springer, who later died of his injuries, the 2 boys could not be saved. Last night, their mother was charged with 4 separate offences.
After lengthy legal discussion, Mrs. Knight was remanded on conditional bail to reappear at this court, charged with 3 counts of manslaughter and 1 count of arson. As to the 3 children who survived the blaze, they can't be identified for legal reasons. At Thames Magistrates Court, this is Damon Green for London Tonight.
Some news just in. 4 men have been arrested in connection with the murder of a security guard in Surrey. 52-year-old Robert Wilson was killed while working at a haulage firm in Chessington. Mr. Wilson was attacked last Friday. Police are still appealing for more information and witnesses.
1 person has died in a suspected gas leak in North London. London Fire Brigade were called to an address in Camden Road at the junction with Royal College Street this morning. A woman aged between 50 and 60 was treated by ambulance crews. Police have cordoned off the surrounding area.
The capital's facilities for wheelchair users have been slammed by the Disability Rights Commission. The charity has highlighted some of the worst places and called for businesses to improve access. One disabled woman showed our reporter Sharon Thomas just how difficult it can be.
Lisa Egan from Golders Green has been a wheelchair user since she was 5. Like most 20-somethings, she enjoys clubbing. On Saturday night, she came here to the Astoria.
It's always great fun to start your night out with a hurdle to face, or in this case, a flight of steps. When I came here, venue staff did help me to get in, but surely it would be fairer on both me and them if I had a ramp or a lift so I could get in by myself.
A mile away in Covent Garden, and it's one of the worst possible surfaces.
You have to be really cautious and careful, otherwise your front wheels get caught and you land on your chin, which hurts.
And many of the pubs aren't much more accommodating.
I couldn't get in there for a pint. The bar was either upstairs or downstairs.
And shopping can also be a real problem.
I have a huge obsession with candles. But they're missing out as well, I suppose, in that they don't get my custom.
A new survey outlines how 70% of disabled people find it difficult to get into shops or use high street services.
The barriers that prevent people with disabilities from doing things are so extensive in London, and I think London's probably, the worst city in this country I've been to. And it's also really quite sad from the business's point of view as well, in that they're not acknowledging that disabled people have disposable income and they could make money.
Today, a new campaign has been launched to help businesses understand changes they'll soon be forced to make, adapting premises and removing physical barriers.
Businesses have a year, really, to get ready to actually make changes so that they can open their doors to disabled customers. They can actually make the best of that business. And when you welcome disabled people, you do welcome other people.
By the 1st of October next year, all businesses, large or small, will have to become more user-friendly for Britain's 8.6 million disabled people. Those that fail to comply with the new legislation could face legal action. In Covent Garden, this is Sharon Thomas for London Tonight.
Come on, London, do your stuff.
Yeah, the need for better disabled access, it's required. Right, plenty still ahead on the programme, including, she may be posh, but she ain't got her crown. Why Mrs. Beckham's wedding tiara is up for sale.
Hoop dreams. Streetball hits the capital, but can it boost interest in London basketball?
And is Patsy Kensett's debut on the West End stage hot stuff? Find out in our weekly look at what's on in the capital this weekend.
First, though, thousands of Londoners wore denim to work today to raise money for a campaign led by Great Ormond Street Hospital. Funds from the Genes for Genes Day will be spent on therapy to help people suffering from genetic disorders. Our health correspondent Liz Wickham reports.
Wherever you look at Great Ormond Street today, denim is in order. The idea is to draw attention, and more importantly funding, towards research to help children like Octavia Woodward. Genes for Genes. Octavia has a genetic disorder called SMA, spinal muscular atrophy. It's because both her mum and dad have a particular faulty gene, but it had never surfaced in either family before. It means, among other things, she'll never walk.
They have very weak main core muscles. She has movement, she has feelings, but for instance, she would be unable to lift her hand above her head like this. She could hold a pencil and write, but very slowly, and you could knock the pencil out of her hands very easily with a feather.
Gene replacement therapy has already cured some children like Rhys Evans, who once had to live in a bubble because he had no immune system.
What we see is that over a period of time, the immune system starts to grow. It starts to produce the cells that weren't there before. It starts to function normally. It starts to produce antibodies. And so these children now can come out of their bubbles. They can stop taking all the medications that they were taking before that would protect them, and they can start to live effectively normal lives.
But so far there's no cure for Octavia. She's very bright and has ways of dealing with children who ask silly questions.
Sometimes by mistake I run people's toes over.
But for her mum, the research can't come fast enough.
The sooner it comes, the better for her, because she can easily have a bad winter and end up in intensive care and not come out.
Currently 4,000 disorders have been discovered that are caused by a single faulty gene. And the same research that goes into treating those faulty genes can one day be used for treating the genes that predispose to a whole range of cancers too. At Great Ormond Street Hospital, this is Liz Wickham for London Tonight.
OK, now from jeans to gems, and the diamond crown worn by Victoria Beckham on her wedding day is being auctioned off. The price tag, something in the region of £100,000. Here's Emma Bertang.
They had the fairy tale wedding of their dreams, and the pièce de résistance, the golden crown worn by Victoria Beckham. It was created by the man who's made tiaras and crowns fashionable again. Slim Barrett has been jewellery designer to the stars for the past 20 years. In 1999, the then Victoria Adams approached him to make her a wedding crown.
She wanted something that was princess and fairy-like, and I worked with her, and I worked on the silhouette, etc., etc., and she came in for 6 fittings and took it from there.
The crown has 240 diamonds and weighs in at almost 11 carats. Last year it was on show at the Victoria and Albert Museum, but since then it's been kept in Slim's North London studio.
I mean, I could have broken the piece up after the wedding, but I just felt that it had icon status, and I didn't really want to do it. So I've kept it until now.
He's now putting it up for auction because he says it's time to move on. If it makes more than the reserve price of £100,000, he promises to give some of it to charity. This is Emma Bertang for London Tonight.
Do you like it?
I have my own Clarky.
Do you?
I wear it.
Oh.
Cleaning
You
the
could have
house.
had it
Ask
otherwise.
the postman, ask Niels.
Does he know?
He does, he knows everything.
Did he buy it for you?
No. Move on.
All right then. Here's Jonathan.
Sorry to disturb the tea party over there. Thank you very much. Good evening. Making Tottenham great again. That's the task facing whoever takes over at White Hart Lane. But is it realistic? The club are currently 4th from bottom of the Premiership and appear to have slipped way behind the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea and Manchester United. Jonathan Gould has this report.
So, Danny Blanchard, captain of Spurs, to take the penalty.
They were the glory days, cup finals, the domestic double, achievements that set Tottenham Hotspur apart from ordinary football teams. But fast forward 42 years and even the politically correct fans are starting to question their place in the Premiership pecking order.
It's a club with a fantastic history and a reputation, and therefore people think possibly it's bigger than it is.
And yet, as the first British club ever to triumph in Europe, has there ever been a better cup side? And as for the legends, they're real, if a little distant.
Gascoigne and Tottenham are level.
But even the legends can't deny that times have changed.
It's been a while since Tottenham have had a bit of stability. Down the road, our local rivals, Arsenal, it's the one thing that I envy them with, is that they have a lot of stability within the club. And that's one thing that we are desperate to get here.
And though David Pleat has brought some stability as caretaker manager for this weekend's match-up with Everton, he's unlikely to keep the job full-time.
I wish Martin O'Neill would come south. I just think this is the perfect challenge for him. You know, he's risen to the challenge at Leicester, he's gone north, he's risen the challenge there as well, and down here it would be great.
Charlton's Alan Kirbishley is also on the shortlist, not exactly the perfect preparation for the Annex trip to Portsmouth.
There's been speculation about me in recent years. I'm still here, you know, so I won't be too concerned about it all.
Tough times lie ahead for Spurs. A glorious past is of little consolation. This is Jonathan Gould for London Tonight.
Now a brief look at the other Premiership matches this weekend. Well, last week it was Kevin Keegan. Tomorrow it's Mickey Adams' turn to face his former club Fulham as Leicester come to Loftus Road. Sol Campbell is expected to be back for Arsenal for the trip to Liverpool, while after their Champions League defeat, Chelsea there at Middlesbrough. England's rugby players have arrived in Perth after the 24-hour trip. Just what you need, a group of Australian rugby lookalikes to greet the side. Oh, how they laughed. Tomorrow the squad will do some charity work for a local hospital, and then it's down to the hard graft of training before the first game against Georgia on Sunday week.
You know, we enjoy the pressure of arriving as one of the teams that could potentially win it. No more than that. But, yeah, the greatest pressure for us is within the team itself. You know, we've been looking forward to this tournament for a long time, and the expectation back in England is huge, which we're all enjoying.
And you can see ITV's preview to the World Cup on ITV2 at 10 to 7 tomorrow night, or if you missed that, 11:15 on Sunday evening. Well, in the time it takes England to win the World Cup, well, there's confidence for you. Adam Hollyoake will be hoping to complete a 2,000-mile charity walk, sail, cycle and sail again to Tangiers. This morning, the Surrey cricketer set off from Edinburgh. On the way, he's hoping to raise over £1 million for a children's charity.
The charity is the Ben Hollyoake Fund, and we're raising money for Chase Children's Hospital, which is a hospice for children who are life limited. So basically, we're going to try and raise £5 million in 5 years, so as to be able to build a build a day centre, which is a place for shelter for the children and families, and a bit of help for the families.
Now then, the regular basketball season gets underway this weekend, but the display at Crystal Palace this evening will be anything but. Streetball is a modern version of the game which gives greater scope for individual skill and bends some of the traditional rules. Well, a huge success already in the States, the game has come to Europe, and the Streetball tour tonight hits Crystal Palace, which is where one of the players, Alamo, joins us, along with the coach of the London Towers, Robbie Pears. Alamo and Robbie, good evening to you. Alamo, are you the modern equivalent of the Harlem Globetrotters, or is there a lot more to Streetball than that?
Yeah, because I think the Harlem Globetrotters was more of a show. We actually have guys that play basketball. We actually have guys that put tricks into their regular game, mix them in with the fundamentals. Then also we have some entertainers that entertain. So I don't think we're too much like the Harlem Globetrotters.
Is it a culture as well?
Excuse me?
Is it a culture as well, or is it going too far to say that?
Yeah, I would say that, because it's like everyone is not going to make the NBA. In all our lives, we've been watching the NBA in college, how to pick and roll, how to do this. It's mainly kids in the gym tonight, and the kids like to see funny things. The kids like to see a guy look for the ball and it's not really over there. The kids like to see a little bit of dancing, high-flying dunks, whereas an adult just wants to see basketball, you know.
Well, Robbie, what does the traditional game make of the new kids on the block then?
Well, I think basketball is a game that you can express yourself individually anyway, so I think it's fantastic. These guys can obviously play, the Harlem Globetrotters could play, but these guys can really play, and I'm really looking forward to it.
And could basketball learn from a game like Streetball? We had problems, didn't we, last season? Essex Leopards, they went to the wall. Does the game have problems at the moment in this country or not?
Well, professional sport in general is a form of entertainment, and obviously we can learn from this, and you're going to see a lot of people coming to watch this, and that's what we want at the Towers.
And do you feel that both of you, question to you, with regard to the response from junior children in the capital with regard to basketball and Streetball, do you think there is a passion for the game at grassroots level in the capital at the moment?
Certainly, if you look at all the primary schools, everyone wants to play basketball. Obviously, traditionally, soccer is the sport, but kids, boys and girls, like to play basketball.
And Alamo, would you say the same? Would you echo that?
Yes, I certainly would, yes.
OK, well, enjoy the evening, both of you. Who are you playing tomorrow, Robbie?
Yeah, we start off with Newcastle at home, 7 o'clock at Crystal Palace. Please come on down.
OK, that's great stuff. Many thanks indeed, guys. Enjoy the evening. And just one reminder, Sunday, Soccer Sunday, 2 o'clock. It'll be just like Streetball with Clive Allen and myself.
Oh,
Street.
We'll look forward to that.
Thanks, Jonathan. A recap now on our headlines this evening. One man has been murdered and another injured in a drive-by shooting in Hertfordshire. The victims were shot with a machine gun outside a health club in Hoddesdon. And serious safety concerns have been raised after London Tonight exposed poor maintenance work on the Bakerloo line at Waterloo. London Underground has launched an internal inquiry.
And finally tonight, let's have a little bit of light relief in the shape of passion from Patsy Kensit and attitude from the Bad Boys. They're both in our guide to what's going on in and around the capital this weekend. Here's our entertainment correspondent, Ken Andrew.
I leave him to you. I don't want to see him.
Two familiar faces from film and television are making their West End acting debuts this week. Patsy Kensit, who's made 30 movies alongside people like Robert Redford and Mel Gibson, and comic Ardal O'Hanlon star along with Nigel Havers in See You Next Tuesday, a play about a wealthy Parisian publisher whose pastime is inviting idiots to dinner for amusement. Funnily enough, O'Hanlon plays the idiot.
Thank you. Now just help me up onto the sofa. Pass me the telephone, and I'll try and sort this mess out.
Your first time in the West End.
Yes.
Are you apprehensive about that?
Absolutely, of course. I mean, it's very daunting, but you know, I'm in 2 scenes, and we've had.
I'll build it up a bit more than that.
But no, but that's
2 very important scenes.
They're pivotal scenes, but I mean, you know, that's the reality, and so I'm just, you know, I'm happy to just be doing that and being.
Only 2 scenes.
2 scenes.
Really?
Yeah, but it feels like hours.
No, delighted to see you when she comes first.
Above all else, possibly the lifestyle is just very enjoyable. You know, it's you're just working for like an hour and a half in the evening, and the play comes up, you know, is over fairly quickly, and then you can get on with your life, and you have the days off to, you know, improve your swing and so on. So it's actually a good life.
Movies and Bad Boys 2 opens this weekend, like the original, but bigger and louder.
We just want to talk. You want to talk? Well, go ahead. They can't hear you because they're still shooting at you.
At the other end of the spectrum, Finding Nemo has been a huge summer hit in the States for Disney and Pixar. The kids will love it.
Nice.
Finally, platinum-selling US singer-songwriter Curtis Stigers is playing the Pizza Express Jazz Club in Soho. Make sure you have extra toppings on whatever you're doing this weekend.
But I know that our love will survive, baby, this time.
There you go. Now, what about you and the postman? I want to know more about that. I'd like hearing.
Well, bye-bye.
Good night.
See you over the weekend.
What's the weather in Nice like?
Great! Just what I expected.
See, it works.
Aim high!
Expect the best.
Raise those expectations.
Hello, good evening. Well, over the next few days, things stay mostly dry in our region here in the southeast, but be warned, there will be a chilly feel to things with a fresh wind blowing around. Back to tonight now, and it's a case of clear skies and dipping temperatures down as low as 5 degrees out of town, and that's fairly chilly. After all, in recent nights, we've seen double figures. So we're going to tomorrow morning on a chilly old note, a fresh note, a bright note as well, some sunshine coming through. By afternoon, we do expect to see a bit more in the way of cloud. There could be a few light showers cropping up as well. Temperatures still not too bad, 16 to 61 in Fahrenheit, but the wind making it feel slightly nippier. So now let's take a quick look ahead to see what's in store for us. And on Sunday, frosty start to the day. Rain clears away during the early hours, and we see a mixture of cloud and some sunshine, clouding over later on though, it has to be said. Then on Monday, once again, we see any rain passing through fairly promptly, and Monday's a day of cloud and some sunny spells. A stiff breeze from the west this time round. This wind switches direction on Monday, and ditto Tuesday, a westerly wind, a noticeable westerly, in turn affecting temperatures. Rain during the first half of the day, then it tends to move away and dry off. That's the way things look.
Sponsored by BMI, welcome to low-cost flights without the low expectations.